The National House of Prayer in Ottawa has been on the front lines of prayer for our nation since 2004.
But now we've entered a new decade and significant changes are taking place in this ministry.
Rob and Fran Parker, the founders and directors, are here to talk about what is coming in the days ahead.
Stay tuned and learn more on LifeLine Today. Welcome to LifeLine Today. So glad you've tuned into the broadcast. We're going to have a great time today, but I want to encourage you, first of all, our phones are open and they do tend to get busy, so please call while you can, right at the beginning if you have a prayer request, of course. And thank you for being a part of the program. We're excited to share with you today with our guests, Rob and Fran Parker, who many of you may know as the founders and directors of the National House of Prayer. Welcome, Rob and Fran.
To both
Thank
of you.
you.
Good to have you here, friends.
Very close friends of ours for many decades, too.
It's been a long while. We've been good friends, and thank you that we can come and connect with you. You have such a heart for our nation, and
we do.
It's wonderful to connect.
We were thrilled and considered a privilege that we were part of the launch of the National House of Prayer in Ottawa and helped financially and put you on television. And we were, for us, there was a no-brainer here. If you're going to have a nation that's transformed and fulfill its destiny, you have to have prayer.
Yes.
And so we're glad about that. But lots of changes are happening right now, and I know some people may have heard different things, and so we thought it'd be good to talk about this.
That's excellent. It's a really good opportunity just to clarify what we are and what we've done, what's changed over this last year. We, as most know, we were situated in Ottawa. We had a convent, former convent that we lived in there.
Phenomenal building.
It was a great building. It was wonderful. God provided that building, no question. And as we continued ministering on, it became apparent to us that God was actually selling the building.
Wow. After how many years?
After
Rob?
15 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 15 years.
And
you can see it on the screen there. Yeah.
God was shifting things. Yeah, there it is on the screen there. We had that as a place where people would gather across the nation, and it was wonderful. But because of expenses of flying and all kinds of other associated things, lesser teams came. The amount of teams that came to Ottawa, it became less and less. So in the end, we had this great building, but we were serving the building more than we were serving the vision.
But you were saying, if I recall, you said to me one time that there was also some expenses that were coming up that were being mandated by the city of Ottawa because it was a historic building, right?
About $200,000, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
significant amount of, and this was not really of your choosing. You already put a lot of money in to upgrade heating and all this stuff.
Yeah. So we were just simply prayerful about this, but then through a series of different ways, God began to show us that, get ready, He was shifting us, and He would be selling the building.
That would be really hard for me because I hate change. Was that hard for either one of you? I mean, after 14 years, you've had hundreds and hundreds of people come through the National House of Prayer, and you took them to Parliament and let them sit in the upper gallery and watch Parliament and the proceedings and pray for what's going on. And then you had prayer meetings in the National House of Prayer. They could actually stay there, and you fed them. And Fran, were you tired?
Well, the funny thing is, I always said to Rob, gee, I'd like to run a bed and breakfast establishment.
And you were, yeah.
But this was.
And very close.
I can honestly say that wasn't a motivation for me to say, oh yes, let's sell a building. I'm tired of this. That wasn't it. But the thing about, it's not just about change. We never owned the building, and that really made a difference. I really felt always that we were caretakers
Oh, wow.
Stewards.
We were
Stewards.
stewards of this building.
Uh-huh.
And yes, I'd be fussy about don't smash the cherry wood and don't, you know.
Yes, right.
But it was basically we were stewarding a building that was being funded by the Church of Canada, by believers,
Yeah.
and people who came to stay and sacrificed and helped with things and donated furniture and all those sorts of things. But we never owned it. And I didn't covet it in my heart.
Yeah.
So that
I know you
part
were
was
saying
important.
owned it in the right way. That
Yes.
You weren't
Right.
possessive
Yeah,
of
we
it.
weren't possessive of
But
it.
it
We
was
were
for God.
stewarding. Yeah,
It
and
was,
that
yeah.
and that was a big part. But I must say, the idea of selling the building, or the building, God was going to sell the building. He was going to make a change. It took a while to happen. You know, he had to really speak to us for months, and we could sense change coming, but you weren't quite sure exactly what that would look like, and you couldn't try and force it or make it up.
I mean, I was sticking my heels in the ground saying,
Yeah.
no way, we're not selling this building. And you know,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it was going to be. But I could not dismiss how clear God was speaking to us. And it
Yeah.
wasn't just Fran and I, he was speaking to our board, you know,
Yeah.
all of us
Yeah,
together.
And other people
I-
had said things as well. They could see massive change coming.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's good to say that it was not it's a unanimous decision. All
Yes.
your directors were on board with this. They felt the same direction.
Yeah.
And we should say that you got an offer from the people you bought it from in
That's
the first
right.
place.
Basically.
Well, you know, I came back to the house of prayer from being out west. I found a pearl on a flight coming back, and 3 times in prayer walking, I found pearls. And I felt like God is showing me something here in the harvest. And
Yeah.
I came back to Ottawa. The next morning I was in prayer, and I was being disturbed because I had to go and fix something in the building. And I just simply said, God, you have to take this building off of me. And within 30 seconds, the Catholic Church behind us called. And essentially that call led to them requesting to repurchase their building
Yeah.
from us. So
Yeah, and you know, I think that if anyone went there, you already know, but if you had never seen it, not only is the exterior beautiful, but the interior is one of those older but beautiful crafted buildings, former convent, as you said, but and you had this wonderful kitchen and all these things in there, and it served so many. We were there in July for some special gatherings with leaders, and it's very good for that.
Yes.
But you know, though, it has to be said, God was saying to us clearly that, Rob, it never was the building that was the National House of Prayer.
Right.
It was you and the people who would come and pray there. And I feel like it was almost as a prophetic forerunner.
Yeah.
Where people have been hemmed in, that they have to serve the building rather than the actual vision that they're called to. I thought that was an example.
And yet we always felt, Dick and I did, that the building itself was a stake in the ground.
It was.
We're here. And it
Yes.
gave you authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so that part was wonderful. I want to hear about where you're going from here and what's happening with the National House of Prayer, because you sold the building, but the National House of Prayer ministry is still very much alive.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us what's happening.
Well, we do feel having a representation and the stake in the ground in Ottawa is still very important. We needed a time period between us selling that and now looking to see where God would have the new,
So you weren't rushed?
a new building,
didn't
a
wanna
new
rush.
location.
Yeah.
We feel that there's a couple there that are going to really head things up in
Yeah.
Ottawa for us, and so we are believing that God's going to show us the right building, and on we go.
Yeah.
That physical presence, especially being in the House of Commons, where we have people going regularly
Yes,
to pray
right.
during question period and in committees and praying there. To us, that's really essential.
Now, part of this too is you have relocated to Alberta. And so there's that component there as well, which, you know, you were always there in Ottawa.
And when you say that, Dick, I see a sparkle in both of their eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that God has totally led you to do this at this particular time, to be in Alberta. Tell us what precipitated this.
Well, we knew we were to come. Even 2 years ago, I sensed there was going to be a presence of the National House of Prayer in Alberta. Because even before that, we thought there would be a sort of NHOP West and Ottawa. And we were thinking, okay, West Coast then, it's got to be the West Coast. But every time I came into
Vernon for
yeah,
years, so
or Vancouver, Vancouver Island, you know, things like that. We have a lot of connections out there and people that are very supportive. And but you know, in the last 2 years, every time I came into Alberta, into Calgary, it's like, God, what are you saying? We feel so drawn here. What is happening? And at the same time, then it's like, well, what would happen in Ottawa?
Yeah.
And you can't force it or make, plan outside of what he's saying. So, you have to be patient.
Yes, right.
And I must say that things are still going to happen there. There will still be people going into Parliament to pray. There's still a Tuesday night prayer meeting. The website is being revamped to reflect everything that the changes and what's going on. There's going to be a couple there and a place there.
And you and Rob will be
and there's
there
a hotel.
quite often,
yeah,
right?
We're going this weekend actually. Yeah. But there's a hotel owner who came to us, a Christian, and he said, Rob, he said, I want to offer my hotel.
That's amazing.
At a good rate for your people to stay when they come as a team. You go straight to Parliament from there, just straight down the street.
So and everything's
falling into place
so
without us trying and searching.
Basically, it's being streamlined.
Yes.
And God is doing this for you.
It's being streamlined, and it's becoming even more. Our goal is to raise more prayer for government, and not wait for teams just to come to us. Let's go to them.
Yes.
We need more prayer right now.
How are you doing that?
Well, field teams. We're establishing what we are calling field teams across Canada, where we're asking, the minimum is a team will say, we will get together once a month and pray for our government. We send prayer points and give them guidance on how they should be praying. Our hope is that that'll be once a week. And we're also hoping that even every constituency across the nation will have a field team there praying for that member of Parliament.
Wouldn't that be something?
Technology has really changed since when you planted the building in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Because ministries now use Zoom calls or Skype or whatever, but you can, Zoom in particular, you can have a meeting online with
and we have
thousands if you want. But imagine that now if you have a field team in every part of every city, every community, every major center in Canada, and then connecting like this on a regular basis.
We would be seeing the amount of prayer for government increasing exponentially.
More engaged, more people
engaged across Canada. Yeah. But even about Alberta, I don't know if you recall, but when I did that prayer walk, I mean, we were from BC, but God was specifically saying from Calgary to Ottawa.
Yeah.
And that was back in 2000.
Yeah.
And yet, what was the connection between Calgary and Ottawa? 6 years later, the Prime Minister was going to come from Calgary to Ottawa. And I really believe that there's such an important connection between this province of Alberta and Ottawa, or national. I feel that what God is going to do in Alberta is actually going to affect the whole of the nation.
We believe that
I believe you.
Rob Fran.
But I do remember interviewing you guys in that time when you did, and I remember you saying at that time, I'm from Vernon. You have a church in Vernon, but God called me to walk from Calgary to Ottawa, and we were covering this, and we were on the set saying, wonder why? Why was the deal? Why Calgary to Ottawa, you know? Didn't want to walk through the mountains. What was the deal?
That's true.
Well, you know what? I'm looking forward to how this all evolves and what is going to take place, because obviously there's parts of this that you don't know yet what God wants to do and the direction He wants you to go. But I want to say this: I'm so thrilled that there will still be that stake and that presence in Ottawa, and teams can still go to Ottawa. Because there's nothing like going to the city of Ottawa if you've never been there before and seeing the Parliament buildings.
It's true.
And
it's life-changing.
For us, when we fly into Ottawa, we feel like we're in our second home. That's how we feel about it. We feel
really
so connected.
We take ownership
to
of
Ottawa.
our nation.
We've taken ownership like it's our own home. So I believe that when a lot of the teams, when they come, that very thing happens to them too.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, we took a small team in in August, as we went to the Aswan. We took one of our are two of our
was a
pastoral
conference.
leaders here, one of which, the younger ones, had never been to Ottawa. And, you know, their experience in Ottawa, we took them to the Parliament buildings, we walked up the steps to the Parliament, or to the Peace Tower, showed them the scriptures, and not just there, but everywhere. And when we left, they said, we have fallen in love with Ottawa.
Wow.
That's nice.
And I just, so
awesome.
I'm so glad that that's going to be still there, that Dick and I can still go and connect with who's ever there, and connect with you guys when
Yep.
you're there,
Yep.
because it's Alberta and Ottawa.
Wow.
There's something brewing
But
here.
you know, it is interesting because in our nation right now there is so much fragmentation, and in particular Alberta and Ontario or the East that's even more obvious, right?
Right.
It's more disconnection going on. There's a concern for all of us of the sense of alienation in Albertans in general, which I want to say I can understand the feelings, but this is not the destiny that God has for our nation.
No.
And sometimes this is just exactly what the enemy will do, try to fragment, try to distance, try to disconnect regions. And what do you think, Rob? Now, what is the role for Alberta in our
Well, I do believe that we need to see a united front in Canada. We can't fragment ourselves off. I do feel that Alberta is going to have a role in bringing can you imagine a servant leadership example of Alberta seeking to serve the nation and bless the nation, but also bringing leadership as to our laws, leadership in regards to our values. I feel there's a key role here. I feel humility is something that now I pray over Alberta for humility, so that there won't be a reaction to other provinces, but rather there will come more of a leadership role. Listen, we need to dialogue, we need to be able to come together. And I feel like this is where the church can be that, you know, I'll use the word again, that forerunner.
We did a live simulcast with Craig Broker and his church in Calgary, and you were there in Calgary. We were here with TJ Green. But something Craig said that I felt was so good is that whenever you see a spirit like the one we're seeing, alienation, rejection, fragmentation, you move in the opposite spirit.
Amen.
You have to. For the kingdom, we'll always
right.
move in the opposite.
Yeah.
And we declared that on New Year's Eve, but I believe that even what you're saying right now, and we're going to do. I know we're going to cover some more things in another program here coming up on LifeLine, but about Alberta's role. But I do see the importance of shifting and moving in the opposite spirit, and in a sense, that's what National House of Prayer has done. Instead of the disconnect, it's more connecting, moving in a connecting of everyone.
You know, that's really interesting. And what we've noticed since we moved to Alberta, and even before we moved, how many people from Ontario and other places, even though there's this economic downturn, God has had them move to Alberta. Believers, leaders, and others that they just sense God has said. There was a lady from Cape Breton. Actually, she's coming to your church.
Yes, she is.
And just I can't explain it. So there's obviously God is up to something. But I must say this too. You were saying that going to Ottawa is for a team. It's life changing, and we've got lots of stories that people that have indicated what it's done for them. But the welcome we've had in Alberta and everywhere, people that have never been to Ottawa, never been to the National House of Prayer, but they feel connected.
Wow.
So that is it's a huge part that you know that what you're doing is working. That God is in
I'm humbled all the time when someone comes to us and tells us that they literally pray for us every day.
There's
That's
people that pray
amazing.
for us.
I get so challenged.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful, but
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I guess we should do with our partners, if you are a partner of the National House of Prayer, don't stop being a partner of the
Yeah.
National
Yeah,
House of Prayer right now, because there are things in transition, but
We're
what we're going
partners.
to, we
Yeah.
are monthly partners. What we're going into, I really believe, is going to be bigger and more powerful
Yeah, and more
than
strategic
what it
even,
was
yeah.
before. Because God never brings you lower or
No.
less powerful. He always adds to you.
It's an
You've been
add.
faithful with what you've had in Ottawa. God's going to put more on you as leaders,
Amen.
so that you can direct something new and different. And I love saying those things, because we're not quite sure where we're going yet.
Right,
It's
with
faith.
everything.
You're showing your faith
Yeah,
that God has taught you,
yeah,
you know, through your own experiences and what you've walked through with the ministry and in your own life personally. You know God is faithful.
Yeah.
And so you can believe in that kind of faithful way
Yeah.
when for others.
but our hearts are all for the nation.
Yes.
We're
Amen.
in it together for
Amen.
the nation.
That's right.
So whatever God says to do in this new era, we
gonna do
moved
it.
into 2020. People are saying it's a new era.
Yeah.
Whatever God says to do, we're going to be
2020,
obedient.
new glasses.
I believe a lot of the whole issue fundamentally about this, about what we say about a new era, and
Yeah.
this has not been recent. This has gone on for the last year or more. People prophesying about the new 2020 is a new year, but also a new decade. It's the third decade of the third millennium, which I think is also extremely significant. But I believe the harvest that is global, and Canada has a huge role in this,
Yeah.
which is why we will see shifting. And Joan and I sense it for ourselves as
Yeah.
well. Hey, we're going to talk a little more with Rob and Fran. We're going to share a little more about what's coming up, all right after this.
Canada needs a fresh move of God, and you can help by partnering financially with LifeLine Today with Dick and Joan and the breakthrough anointing that's on this ministry. All monthly donors join our unique group of faithful partners, and in appreciation, Dick and Joan will send you a special DVD. In it, Dick and Joan share their hearts and vision for Canada and take time to pray powerfully over you. In addition, we will send you this year's special partner fridge magnet, a reminder that you stand together with Dick and Joan for Canada. Partner at $50 a month and also receive this leather-bound journal entitled Sacred Time, Sacred Place. This journal will bring greater intimacy to your daily time with the Lord. Faith-filled partners giving $100 a month will also receive this elegant journal Bible, personally signed with a note of encouragement from Joan. Your tax-deductible donation will empower this ministry to release the prophetic voice of God across our nation. Call today and say yes to becoming a partner with Dick and Joan. Phone 403-942-0123 or email info@dickandjoan.com today.
In Mark 3, verses 24 to 25, Jesus said, "A kingdom divided by civil war will collapse. Similarly, a family splintered by feuding will fall apart." Is your family feuding today? Are you splintered? Are you falling apart? We get many requests from all over the nation about this very thing, saying, pray for our family. There's so much strife, so much division. But you know, we're getting lots of wonderful praise reports as well, that God is breaking through, bringing healing. Jesus came to reconcile man to God, the Bible says. He is still reconciling man to man, woman to woman. We want to pray for your family today. We want to pray for reconciliation, for healing, for restoration in your household. So please give us a call, 403-942-0123.
We're talking to Rob and Fran and Parker from the National House of Prayer. Lots of changes going on, and we were just saying about how the nation, our nation right now, almost is at a point where we need to go up another level in terms of prayer for our government, in terms of prayer for the nation. You know, there seemed to be such positive progress for a period of time, for a decade or so, but now there's almost a reversal, and we're seeing the nation in some ways going with the globalization that's happening in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And let me tell you our perspective on that. Globalization goes against what we believe is God's purpose and calling on the nation of Canada, that our founders established, supernaturally, I believe, and prophetically with Psalm 72, verse 8, applying that verse of Scripture to sea, from the river to the ends of the earth, but he shall have dominion. Our nation was called the Dominion of Canada based on those verses. And so, we see Canada being a nation to bring healing to the nations. And so you're saying we've got to go up now, another level, and praying for our nation.
I do believe that. I think we can go to a point where we look to the government for everything, and we could almost make government God over Canada. No, we know that's not what we should do. But as we posture ourselves before God, I believe that God has called us to bring an influence to government. Because to me, the policies that government is involved with, the laws that they bring, affect every person in our nation, and to me it's an extension of loving our neighbor, caring for them. When a policy comes that could actually hurt your neighbor, we need to be involved in that. We need to be speaking to government. We need to be praying, especially for government, building relationship. When there's a lot of debate over church and state, where people say, well, the church should have no business in the state, or the state should have no business in the church. That was originally brought because of protecting the church and the church's freedom of religion from the state.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean to stop the church influence and involvement in government.
Well, who is the church? It's people.
It's people.
right.
And we're supposed to be a democracy.
Yeah.
So democracy, people have influence.
Yeah.
And it seems like a ridiculous concept, but we know where the secular or globalization influences happen in our culture.
You know what I'm hearing in my spirit right now? Someone is out there watching and they're saying, but who am I? And I'm only one. What can I do? Rob, I want you to address that.
Then they need to say, who is God?
Yeah.
And what can God do?
Yeah.
As He calls on us to pray, He can actually put the very prayer focus in our spirit, that we begin to pray, that we're absolutely coming into sync with what the Spirit of God is asking us to do, to pray over our nation.
Pray in the Spirit, right?
Yes.
Pray in the Spirit.
If you don't know what to pray, that's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
When people, say, well, I didn't vote, or I didn't get around to it. I didn't know who to vote for, and then you find out that in certain ridings, the vote, it was just this close.
Yeah, we had
those sorts of things, and it's like, does your vote matter? It does, and even if it doesn't matter, like in the end, you say who you voted for didn't win, you have expressed prayerfully what you sensed God wanted to do.
We had a riding right here in our region
same thing.
that could have several hundred votes.
Yeah.
It could have gone one way or the other. Shows you how significant.
One church motivated.
Yeah, one church
mobilized.
mobilized, and that could have made a difference in that vote. But,
Wow.
Well-
but nevertheless, we got 1 minute left, and
I just wanted to say something here that I was reminded of when we first went to Ottawa. The verses that God gave us was, pack your bags and leave, the siege is about to begin.
Wow.
And further on in that chapter, the verses said, I want you to go from town to town and city to city and remind the people of the covenant I made with their forefathers.
Wow.
And we knew that was part of the call, but it was a not yet.
so
And in the last 2 years,
You think it's now?
It's
this
now.
is the now.
Praise
I believe
God.
you're right, and I believe that it's time to remind the nation of its covenant.
Yes.
And we're with you.
And we're
Yes.
with you.
Amen.
We want to invite you to go to their website, National House of Prayer in Canada. It's nhop.ca.
Yes, and it's being revamped.
Partner with them.
Yes, right.
Just get updates about what's going on. Thank you, Robin Fran,
Thank you
for
so
being on
much
the
for being
program.
Thank you for
with
having
us.
us.
Thank you.
But let's
glad
remember
you're
something.
Close.
God hears the passionate prayer of His believers.
Amen.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
This program is supported by viewers like you, and we thank you for partnering with us. We want to hear from you. Send us your prayer requests, praise reports, and comments about the program. To watch past episodes, learn about the ministry, or contact us, visit our website at dickandjoan.com. You can also find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. To find out how you can have Dick and Joan at your church, event, or conference, call LifeLine Today at 587-425-5730 or email info@dickandjoan.com.